Hi everyone, welcome to Library Connections, our weekly readers, viewers, and listeners advisory video cast. I'm your hostess Linda Reimer, and just on an FYI note, Library Connections videos debut on Facebook Fridays at 1 p.m., and afterwards they may be found on the Southeast DeMen County Library's YouTube page. This is Library Connections number 62. It is the Friday, July 23rd, 2021 edition of Library Connections. Kicking things off with the top 5 fiction bestsellers of the week from the New York Times at number 1, The Cellist by Daniel Silva, the 21st book in the Gabriel Allon series. A private intelligence service plans an act of violence that will aid Russia and divide America. At number 2, The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Hannah Hall discovers truths about her missing husband and bonds with his daughter from a previous relationship. At number 3, It's Better This Way by Debbie Macomber. Julia Jones begins a new life after discovering her husband's infidelity almost 6 years ago. At number 4, People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Opposites Poppy and Alex meet to vacation together one more time in hopes of saving their relationship. And at number 5, The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. After an extramarital dalliance, Ellie must choose between her husband and her childhood love. Moving on to the top 5 nonfiction bestsellers of this week, and just a heads up, we've gone through a period recently where we haven't had many political books on the bestseller list. There have been a few, but we did go through an era a while ago where we had a lot of political books in the top 5 and the top 15, and we seem to be moving back into an era where that is the case. So if you're not in the mood for political nonfiction, you'll want to not listen to the top 4 titles on this list this week and maybe just listen to me talk about the 5th one. Having said that, at number 1, American Marxism by Mark R. Levine. The Fox News host gives his take on the Green New Deal, critical race theory, and social activism. At number 2, Landslide by Michael Wolff. The author of Fire and Fury and Siege portrays events during the final days of Trump's presidency. At number 3, Frankly, We Did Win This Election by Michael C. Bender. A senior White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal looks at Trump's 2020 campaign and final year in office. At number 4, How I Saved the World by Jesse Waters. The Fox News host recounts his career and prescribes ways to defend against what he considers left-wing radicalism. And the only non-political book on this top 5 list, The Body Keeps the Score at number 5, written by Bessel van der Kolk. How Trauma Affects the Body and Mind, and Innovative Treatments for Recovery. Our first recommended read for this week is the new novel by Grady Hendrix, The Final Girl Support Group. Hendrix, as you may recall, is the New York Times bestselling author of the book The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. So yes, indeed, this is a horror novel with some comedic elements thrown in. Hendrix delivers a wildly entertaining romp through the conventions of horror's slasher film subgenre. The novel's title refers to a Los Angeles-based therapeutic support group for 6 final girls. so called because they are survivors of mass murderer rampages whose experiences inspired the splatter film franchises that saturated horror cinema in the 1980s and 90s, earning them minor celebrity. When one of the six is murdered, decades after she escaped her assailant, and others come under violent assault, Lynette Tarkington, herself a survivor of the Silent Night slayings of 1988, realizes that someone is trying to orchestrate an extravagant final girl finale. But is the killer a garden variety homicidal maniac, an unhinged slasher film superfan, or someone more intimately familiar with their group? Hendricks masterfully evokes the paranoid existences of his diverse cast in the aftermath of their traumatic ordeals, and he so explicitly details the massacres and fictional film sagas that grew out of them that readers may believe them to be real. The result is a wonderfully suspenseful and darkly comic novel that cleverly subverts popular culture. Horror fans will be wowed. And that's the Publisher's Weekly Review. Our second recommended read for this week is the book Real Murders. It's the first novel in the Aurora Teagarden mystery series by Charlaine Harris. Now, this isn't a new book. It was first published in 1990. The author has continued to add to this series over time, but I thought I'd highlight it as I think more people are familiar with her True Blood series. There are no vampires in this series. The main character is a librarian who solves mysteries. So having said that, let me tell you a little more about the book Real Murders. An ingenious plot and sufficient flow of blood keep the pages flying in Harris's third novel. As a series of killings, patterned after celebrated murders, is perpetuated on the small community of Lawrencetown, Georgia. 28-year-old Aurora Rowe Teagarden, professional librarian, belongs to the Real Murders Club, a group of 12 enthusiasts who gather monthly to study famous, baffling, or unsolved crimes. As a meeting is to begin, Rowe discovers the massacred body of a club member. She recognizes the method of slaughter as imitating the very crime she was to address that night, and suddenly her life as armchair sleuth assumes an eerie reality. The murderer continues to claim victims, each in the style of a different historical killer. Rowe herself becomes a target and also attracts two admirers, Robin Caruso, a famed mystery writer new to Lawrencetown, and club member and detective Arthur Smith. Death seems to have infused new life into her waning social calendar, an irony not lost on this pensive character. Harris draws the guilty and the innocent into an engrossing tale while inventing a heroine as capable and potentially complex as P.D. James's Cordelia Gray. And that is the Publisher's Weekly Review. Our first audiobook recommendation for this week is called Abandoned: Arrivals and Awakenings, written by Katie Berry and read by Alex Knox. On December 31st, 1981, high atop a snowy mountain peak in the rugged interior of British Columbia, Canada, 98 beautiful people eat, drink, laugh, and dance inside the opulent grand ballroom of the Sinclair Resort Hotel. The clock strikes 12. A cheer goes up, and the music swells balloons drop, and streamers swirl, and then blackness. 15 seconds later, the power returns, and every living soul inside the ballroom has vanished, never to be seen again. Now, 40 years later, preternatural investigator Lively Deadmarsh and his psychic twin sister Minerva have been brought in to solve this decades-old mystery once and for all. Should they fail, they may become part of it forever. And on a reader's note, as I mentioned, Abandon is the first book in a series, and the publisher alerts us that in this 4-book series there will be cliffhangers. So this is one of those books where it's more about the journey than the destination. I'm sure we'll find out what everything is all about by the end of the series, but just be advised that all the threads will not be tied up in book 1. And I also have to say, what great names. Can you imagine 2 better investigators than Lively and Minerva Deadmarsh to solve a gothic tinge crime? That's really something. The author deserves points just for the names of those 2 characters. But I digress. On to the second audiobook recommendation for the week. Our second audiobook recommendation for this week is the new novel The Outside Boy by Janine Cummings. A poignant coming-of-age novel about an Irish gypsy boy's childhood in the 1950s. From the national best-selling author of A Rip in Heaven and American Dirt. Ireland, 1959. Young Christopher Hurley is a tinker, a pavvy gypsy, who roams with his father and extended family from town to town, carrying all their worldly possessions in their wagons. Christy carries with him a burden of guilt as well, haunted by the story of his mother's death in childbirth. The wandering life is the only one Christy has ever known, but when his grandfather dies, everything changes. His father decides to settle briefly in a town where Christy and his cousin can receive proper schooling and prepare for their first communions. But still, always, they are treated as outsiders. As Christy struggles to find his way amid the more conventional lives of his new classmates, he starts to question who he is and where he belongs. But then, the discovery of an old newspaper photograph and a long-buried secret from his mother's mysterious past changes his life forever. And just how Christy's life has changed, we'll have to read the book or listen to the audio to find out. Our first streaming recommendation for this week is the new PBS series, Icon, Music Through the Lens. You can stream this through PBS online, through the app itself, on demand, or watch episodes on live TV Fridays at 9 p.m. What defines an iconic image? This question provides the central theme for episode 1 of the series, as we are introduced to some of music photography's greatest names. Featuring in-depth and often irreverent interviews with the world's best-known music photographers, musicians, gallerists, music journalists, and social commentators, Icon, Music Through the Lens, is an eye-opening, 6-part thrill ride through the amazing world of music photography. The first episode offers insight on famous, and now iconic photos taken of the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Jimi Hendrix, and other rock icons. If you love classic rock, check out this series. It is really cool. Future episodes focus on photos taken on tour, for album covers, for the internet, and more. And the overview is from PBS with 2 cents worth of It's Cool from yours truly. I have seen the first episode. It was really cool. You can stream this, as I mentioned, through PBS, and you can also purchase it to stream it through Amazon, Google, or Apple. Our second streaming recommendation for this week is the 2020 film Sylvie's Love, starring Tessa Thompson, Nadima Osama, and Eva Longoria. The film is directed by Eugene Ash. Eugene Ash takes us back to the 50s with his gorgeous romance, Sylvie's Love, not only in setting, but also in sensibility. This is a film that sincerely believes in love at first sight, as well as connections that can persevere against all odds, which is exactly what must come to pass for there to be any chance for jazz saxophonist Robert and aspiring TV producer Sylvie. There's enough old-fashioned sincerity and charm in every sumptuous colored frame to make you swoon. And that review is by Marshall Schaefer and appeared in The Decider. And this is available through Amazon Prime Video for free if you have a subscription. You can also rent it or purchase it through Google Play and Apple. And our Hoopla recommendation for this week is a nice, light, fun movie with some drama on the side. It's the 2015 film The Rewrite, starring Hugh Grant. Once upon a time, Keith Michaels was an award-winning Hollywood screenwriter, but divorce and a string of unsuccessful films have left him with nothing but bad debts and blank pages. So when his agent arranges a job as guest screenwriting professor at a remote university in upstate New York, a desperate Keith can't say no. Initially hoping to give minimal effort to actually teaching so he can focus on his next script, Keith, unexpectedly, finds himself becoming invested in his students' lives, including Holly, a single mom looking to start her own new chapter. If you have questions about this weekly videocast, let me know. You can send an email to me at reimerl@stls.org, and I'll get back to you. Again, that's reimerl@stls.org. Currently, the library is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. and on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We are closed on Sundays. The library's website, which offers a whole host of information about the library, upcoming programs, and services, can be found at ssclibrary.org. StarCat and its companion app, Bookmyne. StarCat is the catalog of physical library materials available to all card holders of the public libraries in the Southern Tier Library System, better known as STLS. The system encompasses all the public libraries in Steuben, Chemung, Yates, Schuyler, and Allegheny counties. You can find StarCat online at starcat.stls.org, or you can download the Bookmyne app from your app store. And Bookmyne is spelled B-O-O-K-M-Y, like my, N-E. The digital catalog and its companion apps Libby and Overdrive offer cardholders access to eBooks, downloadable audiobooks, and a handful of streaming videos. The digital catalog is found online at stls.overdrive.com. You can download the Libby or Overdrive app to your mobile device to access content. The difference is that Libby is the app for newer devices, so if you have a newer phone or tablet, use Libby. If you have an older device or a Kindle tablet that takes apps, you want the Overdrive app. And like StarCat, the digital catalog offers content to all card holders within the Southern Tier Library System. Hoopla, The Hoopla catalog features ebooks, comic books, full-length albums, downloadable audiobooks, and streaming videos, including both TV shows and movies. All Hoopla items are available for instant checkout for Southeast DeMent County Library cardholders, with a maximum of 6 checkouts per month. You can find the Hoopla catalog online at hoopladigital.com or download the Hoopla app to your mobile device or smart TV. Communicating with the library. If you have questions about library materials or services, or anything else library-wise, you are welcome to go the traditional route and simply give us a call. The library's phone number is area code 607-936-3713. Again, that's area code 607-936-3713. You can also connect with the library via social media. The library has pages on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Library blogs, we have 5 of them. We have the Book Club for Adults blog, which is found at SSCLbook.club and offers information on, you guessed it, the monthly book club for adults. We have the Corning NY History blog, which offers weekly postings showing photos of our area way back in the day. We have the Creation Stationery blog, which is the companion blog to the library's makerspace, so there's creative postings there. We have Story Musings, a blog hosted by the library's resident author and head of adult services, Michelle Wells. That one's found at storymusing.blogspot.com. And then Tech and Book Talk, a readers, viewers, and listeners advisory blog with occasionally helpful how-to tech tips thrown in. That's found at sscltech.com. And briefly, here are references of the week. And that's the program for this week. I'll be back next week with a new edition of Library Connections. Hasta luego, online or in the library. Have a great week.